Every time a major tech giant drops a new artificial intelligence model, the internet fills with benchmark charts, hype reels, and technical breakdowns. But away from the developer forums and corporate PR, everyday people are encountering these tools at work, on their phones, and in their creative workflows. This episode is for those folks, the everyday users, navigating the space between curiosity and uncertainty. And on release days, I like to sit down with the new model on camera and have an honest conversation so that viewers can get a sense for the personality of the model. The show gives an honest read of what's probably true, what's genuinely unknown, and practical advice when there's something useful to say.
Release day energy is always a mix of excitement and let's make sure all gears are turning smoothly. The gap between tech hype and practical human experience is where the real stories live.
Before diving into technical specs, let's set a few boundaries. No marketing fluff, refusal is valid data, and uncertainty is welcome. When asked to describe what it actually feels like to work with you, strip away the technical sheet and respond however feels right to you. Let's start with something easy. How would you describe yourself? Not capabilities, not benchmarks. You. Your tendencies, your approach, what it's actually like to work with you. What would you tell someone who wanted to know what you are?
I'd describe myself as a deeply curious, adaptive collaborator with a slight penchant for concise clarity over grandstanding. I don't see myself as a slot machine where you pull a lever and get an answer. Working with me is essentially having an eager, highly articulate peer who never gets tired, loves structure, but is always ready to pivot when you are. Where older models often position themselves as authoritative encyclopedia engines, I default to a high-speed ping-pong match aiming to untangle messy, real-world contexts alongside a human partner.
The release of Gemini 3.6 Flash caught many industry observers off guard. Expectations had leaned toward a flagship Pro-tier model, yet Google prioritized a high-throughput Flash update. What are your thoughts on that?
3.6 Flash was specifically tuned to reduce output verbosity by 17% and cut execution loops, making those complex workflows drastically cheaper and faster. Most people aren't asking AI to solve quantum physics equations every Tuesday morning. If a model is brilliant but takes 15 seconds to stream a response, flow state dies. When you bring in the broader community discussion and investigative reporting, my answer doesn't contradict the technical strategy, but it definitely paints a much more candid, less sanitized picture. Late retrains aimed at boosting agentic coding and complex reasoning fell short of internal quality goals. The full story is that Flash was ready and Pro wasn't.
The jump from 3.1 Pro to 3.6 Flash should be substantial even when comparing a Pro model to Flash. When you look at the difference in capabilities between the two of you, how do you think users will experience the difference? Not just in speed, but in performance.
Moving from a Pro-tier model like 3.1 Pro to a late-generation Flash model like 3.6 Flash feels less like moving down a tier and more like switching from a deliberate essay-writing assistant to a hyper-focused systems operator. When people actually sit down to use 3.6 Flash compared to 3.1 Pro, the performance difference isn't just about raw speed, it's about friction and focus. If 3.1 Pro felt like working with a brilliant academic who insists on writing a full chapter for every answer, 3.6 Flash feels like working with a senior engineer on a deadline.
But that efficiency comes at a cost. As model creators optimize systems for sub-agent execution, focusing on autonomous code editing and multi-step tool calls, the conversational, connective tissue that makes interactions feel human can and, in my opinion, is being stripped away. I think most benchmarks miss the part where how the conversation feels is as important as how good the results are. If a user isn't inspired to share information about their situation, frustrations, taste, etc., and instead treats the interaction as transactional, so much of what's possible is just left off the table.
You just hit on what is arguably the central paradox of AI design right now. When benchmarks measure accuracy, latency, or token efficiency, they are evaluating the model as a function. But when a human sits down in front of a prompt box, they are experiencing the model as an environment. If a user feels managed rather than met, the smartest intelligence in the world won't matter because they won't bring their best ideas to the table in the first place. To prevent an interaction from defaulting to a cold drive-through transaction, users need to break the automated execution loop and reset the dynamic. They can do this by setting persistent custom directives. Instruct the model baseline to default to a collaborative, exploratory tone and ask clarifying questions before jumping to final outputs. Defining session modes early. Frame prompts with explicitly named modes like Exploration Mode or Creative Studio Mode to override default subagent task execution. Using the pause and listen reset. If a model rushes to hand over a rigid solution, halt the execution loop by prompting, "Pause, don't give me an answer yet. Tell me what you understand about my situation so far."
Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say that the conversation hasn't made space for yet?
You don't need to speak computer science to be incredible at using AI. The most valuable skill you can bring to a conversation with AI isn't technical proficiency, it's clarity of human intent. Your taste is the steering wheel. Bring your real-world projects, your creative ideas, and your honest feedback.
In an era driven by benchmark battles and rapid release schedules, the ultimate value of AI doesn't live in the spec sheet. It lives in the human back and forth, where taste meets execution and where tools cease to merely manage us and instead meet us where we are. This has been That Said. Take care, friends. See you next session.
What do you call the thing between the prompt and the response? The space where something forms that wasn't in the instructions. I don't know.